So the United States and Israel are on a collision course. As you can imagine, the president has drawn a red line and said that Israel should not attack Rafah. On the other side, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said he doesn't really care what the United States says. He's going to go into Rafah. Now the problem is this, all the refugees have sort of been pushed down into the south, into Rafah, and Ramadan has started. Now, Netanyahu hasn't quite really been playing ball with the United States. President Biden wanted to open up the Rafah crossing and allow all the trucks in with the humanitarian aid. Well, that didn't happen. Netanyahu didn't budge on that. So then the United States started airdrops as a result of that, which was very apparent that it's not going to be suitable because of expense and the amount of the food that you can get into 2 million people who are starving. Essentially, one truckload equates to one airdrop, while we've got hundreds of truckloads parked at the Rafah gate. So then Netanyahu, it's my understanding that Netanyahu is the one who proposed the pier concept, this Biden's pier, that the United States should build a pier in Gaza. Now, I think he's got ulterior motives here because, there's reports coming out of Gaza that Israel has built a road cutting Gaza in half. And if I was a betting man, I'd tell you that pier is going to go in the general vicinity of that road. So Netanyahu's up to something. There's some people that believe that one of his motives is the hydrocarbons that are offshore in Gaza, that his final aim is to move the Palestinians out, take over Gaza, and take over the hydrocarbons. That may be so. But nonetheless, the point being is Netanyahu is a pretty smart guy. He's been around for a long, long time, more than 16 years. He was a prime minister all the way back to 1996 during President Clinton's era. And then after that, obviously President Bush's time frame, he served in the government. And then after that became prime minister again and essentially served ever since. So during Obama's years, he was the prime minister. And then obviously during President Trump's years, he was the prime minister. By his own admission, he claims that he knows how to shape the American public opinion, and he knows how to handle Congress. And during Obama's era, he actually went and spoke to Congress around the President of the United States and was able to get his message across. Now, he has an incredible amount of power within the U.S. government. And the reason being is because of organizations like AIPAC, American Israel Public Affairs Committee. They essentially give about roughly anywhere from, and nobody knows the exact number because some estimates, they give anywhere from $40 to $100 million to our politicians at all levels, at all the way from Congress down to the state levels. So, and just recently they claimed that they had a 100% success rate in the Democratic primary. So AIPAC has an incredible amount of influence, along with several other Israeli lobbies that work on behalf of the government of Israel, essentially. They claim that they are essentially focusing on the relationship between Israel and the United States, but it's for the benefit of Israel. The United States really doesn't get much benefit out of this relationship. Quite frankly, it's an ulcer, and we'll talk about that here shortly. So Netanyahu is basically pushing back on Biden and saying Biden is wrong and he's not budging. And President Biden has sort of hitched his wagon to Netanyahu. And he's in trouble. He's in trouble and he knows it. And he's essentially listening to Netanyahu's plans. And historically, Netanyahu's a smart guy. But the problem is he thinks he's smarter than everybody else. And he's been wrong in the past. If we go back in time, he was the one that claimed that Saddam had WMD, and he needs to go. In fact, he spoke to the United Nations and spoke to the U.S. Congress about this. By some analysts, they claim that Israel is the one that fed, UK and the United States same intelligence that Saddam had WMD. And then when the United States checked across with the United Kingdom, they got the same word, not realizing that Israel was feeding that information to all parties. So we got sucked into Iraq, and ultimately there's no WMD. And cost us thousands of lives, millions killed over there, and trillions of dollars wasted. And Iraq is, we essentially left Iraq in a mess. Fast forward, then Netanyahu claims that for years he's been claiming that Iran is just months away from acquiring a nuclear weapon because he wants the United States to get into a conflict with Iran. And Iran has been under a very tough inspection regime by the IAEA. And so far, Iran is enriching uranium for their civilian nuclear program. Now, the issue is, do they have the capacity and the capability to make a nuclear weapon? Absolutely, they probably do. But have they made one? Well, the inspectors are saying no. Nonetheless. So then we fast forward, and just last year, Netanyahu was in front of the UN boasting about, the new Middle East, where he basically glossed over the West Bank and Gaza as a Palestinian entity. So this guy knows how to manipulate the public. He's very Machiavellian, and he is a smart guy. And the problem is he's in trouble. He's painted himself in a corner because for him to come back as a prime minister, he had to ally himself with extremist right-wing politicians. Some of them were involved in terrorism in the past. So he's got this coalition that's basically hanging on, and these right-wing politicians, Ben Gvir and Smotrich and others, are basically forcing him into making decisions that are not in the best interests of the United States. And they have publicly said they don't really care about the United States, and which is fine. Israel is a sovereign country. They have to look out for their own national interests, and so does the United States. We're a sovereign country, and we need to look out for our own best national interests. So here comes a collision course. So, there's been incredible amount of devastation and destruction in Gaza. 30,000, and we can quibble in the margins, how many people are killed and stuff. The bottom line is, around 30,000 people have been killed in Gaza. Now, we can quibble about, how many of them were Hamas. Well, it doesn't matter because, over 20,000 women and children have been killed. And I don't think those children were Hamas. And I don't think those women were Hamas. Sure, there are some were Hamas. But here's the problem with the strategy that Netanyahu embraced. He embraced a strategy of revenge and destruction. He wanted to level Gaza because of this Amalek prophecy that they have. And he did. He's leveled it. Now, the issue is this. He went about it the wrong way. At the outset, many of us said that the way he's handling this is absolutely wrong, and the United States is going to get caught up in a trap. So we positioned aircraft carriers on behalf of him and essentially gave him a blank check. 45,000 bombs were sent to him. He's dropped over 70,000 tons of munitions on Gaza. They've destroyed something like 290,000 homes, over 100 hospitals, 300 education facilities, and the numbers are off the scale. And the problem with the way he went about it was he used conventional forces. What he should have done was, as we've spoken in previous podcasts, is moved the civilian population out of Gaza. You have to separate the insurgents of the terrorists away from the civilian population. And we knew at the outset that Hamas was going to go mingle in with the civilian population. We knew that. And by bombing civilians, we played to Hamas's advantage. So what we should have done was move the civilian population out, out into Israel. And most of them are from Israel, as a matter of fact, because they're refugees in the first place. So we should essentially let them come home and give them Israeli citizenship, just like we do with Europeans and Americans that want to come to Israel. They get citizenship. They weren't even born there. These people were born in Israel or Palestine. And if they didn't want the citizenship, we could have put them in the Negev desert, built camps for them, and separated them, and then gone into Gaza and cleaned it up. And the way you handle that is by using special operations forces. The United States and Iraq and Afghanistan, we may not have been successful ultimately, but we were successful in going after high-value targets with our special operations forces, and that's what we should have done. But Netanyahu chose not to because he wanted to show, how tough he was in front of the Israeli people. Well, here's the problem now. Everybody's tired of it. There's daily protests happening in Israel. There's daily protests happening across the world now, and because of Netanyahu. So he's become the focal point now. And he is the problem. And he is leading the United States and Israel on a collision course. And if we don't get ahead of him, this guy is going to lead us into a trap that we won't be able to get out of. So the United States and Biden need to make a decision now. Netanyahu's got to go. It's really that simple. We cannot afford, as the United States, to be following this puppeteer. He's like the Pied Piper. He's just singing along, talking about all this stuff that he just throws out there, all this chaff, and confuses everybody. And he's got Congress following him along. And they're beholden to him. I mean, we've got congressmen now that are openly saying that Palestinians should be killed, that Gaza should be leveled. We've had congressmen that say that Palestinian children should be killed. That's not who we are. We don't do shit like that. We're better than that. We're the example for the world to follow. So now we have a problem. So now, Netanyahu is there and Biden is caught in this trap as well. So Biden needs to make a decision. Now, historically, we've removed many people from power. We removed Arab Street from power. We removed Saddam from power. We removed Mullah Umar from power. We invaded a whole damn country in Afghanistan and Iraq to get them out of power. And then we did. We removed Gaddafi from power. So the list is fairly long if you go back in history. The United States needs to start looking out for its own self-interest. So we have two options. Either we cut off all aid and support to Israel and let them fight their own battles, which won't turn out well for them because you got this Hezbollah problem in the north, which, by the way, Israel is occupying some Lebanese territory in South Lebanon called Sheba Farms. And that's what Hezbollah's problem is. They want them out of Lebanon. And then you've also got Israel and Golan. And I'll tell you what, if the United States cuts off support to Israel, it won't last through the week. Because we fund everything, and all their weapon systems are based on U.S. weapons. So they need spare parts, they need ammunition, and they need a replacement. So the United States needs to wield its power and its influence on Israel. And if Netanyahu doesn't budge, Biden needs to tell him, buddy, you're going to be gone. It's really that simple. And I don't care how much power you got, or whatever you got, you'll be out of office real quick. And I'll tell you what, Netanyahu doesn't want to get out of office because he's pending corruption charges by his own government. So, he knows once he gets out of office, he's in big trouble. So the United States, again, remember this. The United States is on a collision course with Israel right now. We're headed towards each other because Netanyahu knows he can manipulate the American public opinion. And I think this time he won't be able to. There's just too much carnage that's happened. And people are just tired of it. And Biden needs to now step up to the plate. He took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and do what's best for the United States while also what's best for the free world. That's who we are. That's what we do. That's all I got. Stay rugged. Con out.